Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Montgomery County Council for our afternoon session. Before we get into our public hearing and our continued work sessions on the budget, we have two proclamations this afternoon. The first proclamation is recognizing Commander Everett Alvarez, Congressional Gold Medal Award, and I will be doing this with representatives from Senator Van Hollen's office. We also have representatives from Congressman Raskin's office and the county exec's office. So all those who are here for that proclamation, please come down. And we also have Councilmember Katz because the commander lives in his district. All right, again, good afternoon. So this afternoon, we're honored to be joined for this proclamation by Commander Alvarez and members of the Commission on Veterans Affairs. Is Bill Gray here? Did you get here yet? Okay. Oh, Bill, there you are. Come on down. The former chair of the Commission on Veterans Affairs and a Vietnam vet. Thank you for being here today with us. We also have members of the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, and we have Dale Tibbetts here from the county exec's office, and Ms. Richardson, who has a presentation from Senator Van Hollen, is with us as well. May is Military Appreciation Month, and it's fitting that we take the time today to honor one of our hometown heroes and a national hero, Navy Commander Everett Alvarez, Jr. Commander Alvarez was the first American aviator taken captive in Vietnam after being shot down near Hanoi and remained in captivity for more than 8.5 years, the second longest held U.S. prisoner of war in U.S. history. Throughout his captivity, he remained loyal to the United States and assisted other American POWs. For his bravery in the face of adversity and his sacrifices to our nation, he has been honored with countless military and civilian awards, including the Congressional Gold Medal, the oldest and highest civilian award in the United States. But of course, we couldn't let you go home without a proclamation from the County Council in Montgomery County, where you live, and that's why we're here today. Commander Alvarez represents the very best of the American spirit. He is the grandson of Mexican immigrants, completed multiple higher education degrees, including a Juris Doctorate from George Washington School of Law, and continued a long legacy of public service following his distinguished military career. We are honored to recognize him for his heroism and bravery while serving in the U.S. Navy, and we are forever grateful for his service. We will continue to uphold his legacy by pursuing the ideals of liberty that you fought to preserve in our nation. Thank you to the commander for everything you have done for our country, and to your wife, Tammy. Thank you for everything you've done for our local community, and to all Montgomery County veterans for their contributions and sacrifices to keep our country safe. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dale Tibbetts from the county exec's office.
Thank you. Thank you. And on behalf of County Executive Mark Elrich, he extends his apologies and congratulations to the commander for he is unable to be here today, but recognizes and wishes to honor and celebrate Commander Alvarez's long history of public service. You heard about his harrowing days as a prisoner of war, but he continued his public service after that as Deputy Administrator of Veterans, Deputy Director of the Peace Corps, Deputy Administrator of the Veterans Administration, and for a short period was the Acting Director of the VA. And he helped establish some vet centers, one of which is located here in Montgomery County. So in addition to all of his service that he's most famous for, it's that continuing service that we also appreciate. And I'd like to ask the members of the People's, the Vietnam People's Army, please, please stand up just to be recognized. And thank you very much for attending. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Bill Gray with the Veterans Commission.
Thank you, Dale. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Commander. And I'd like to say welcome home to you. Thank you. Vietnam vets frequently say welcome home to another Vietnam vet because coming home, the American public did not give us a welcome. And so I've met the commander in the past. I've said welcome home to him. But as far as I'm concerned, that never gets old. So particularly, it's I had some words I was going to say that were just spoken, so I need to pick and choose here. But it's it's particularly poignant today for me to say welcome home to you, Commander, because you were the first American aviator to be shot down and captured, and you were the second longest POW held in Hoa Lo, and it was a prison camp built by the French in Hanoi and dates back to 1886 to 1889, and that's when Vietnam was still part of French Indochina. Everett Alvarez was a 26-year-old Navy pilot based on a USS Constellation aircraft carrier in South China Sea, and on August 5th, 1964, he was shot down. He was a lieutenant junior grade, and for those of us who were in the Army, Air Force, and Marines, that would be a first lieutenant. I was the first chair of the Montgomery County Commission on Veterans Affairs, and over time we've had the commander come and talk to us at least a couple of times to our meeting. And I was an infantry lieutenant in Vietnam Army, and I was there from November 68 to May of 69. And I was wounded in my leg, and I was able to come home after that, and I still had about 5 months left to go. But I did some number crunching, and in the end of 69, when I got out, the commander was about halfway through his imprisonment, and you had no idea how long you were going to be there. But welcome home again. It's been documented that there are about 766 prisoners of war held in Vietnam, and you and your brothers languished in horrible conditions. But you made it through, and that translates to 3,113 days of captivity. And it's been said, Commander Alvarez has said that he survived imprisonment primarily to his faith in God and the mutual support of the other prisoners who communicated with each other by tapping on the walls of their cells. So, and you were released February 12th, 1973. So, thank you again. Welcome home.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. We'll quickly have words from Councilmember Katz, and then we'll hear from Senator Van Hollen's office.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Sir, I am truly honored to be standing with you, and I think others will stand at the end of this to give you applause. I was not in Vietnam. My oldest brother was. He was in the Mekong Delta. He was a first lieutenant, Trung Huy, and he did get a Bronze Star. Thank God he didn't get a purple one. But the going through that time when we stopped and think, my family, it was the early 70s, my family really realized that you can't take life for granted. And sir, the fact that you have done what you have done, they named a post office after him. I mean, it's as impressive as we can have, and he is a Montgomery County person. We all need to be so very, very proud and thankful for all that you do, and your wife as well. Thank you very much.
Ms. Richardson from Senator Van Hollen's office.
Good afternoon, sir. On behalf of the Senator and our entire office, this citation is presented to you. On a personal note, as a current service member, I thank you for your dedication and sacrifice to our country and paving the way for veterans and current service members like myself. This citation is presented to Mr. Everett Alvarez, Jr. in recognition of you being awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. With gratitude of your heroism, sacrifice, and service to our nation, and with appreciation for your enduring contributions to the community and tireless advocacy on behalf of the veterans, including your key roles in the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Peace Corps, and with sincerest congratulations on the well-deserved honor, signed, U.S. Senator Christopher Van Hollen.
Now, Commander, would you like to say a few words? I can hold that.
Well, let me first say thank you to everyone, to the council for arranging this event and inviting me to be here, my wife and I, Tammy. I want to acknowledge the presence of the Vietnamese veteran that are here today. If you look at them, you will say that we're probably all of the same vintage. Yeah. And that's remarkable that I didn't realize there were that many of my age counterparts here. So I wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you for the very kind words, sir, that you had. We have lived in Rockville, Potomac, for it'll be 50 years it'll be 49 years this year, 50 years next year. And in that period of time, this is the first time we've ever been in this room right here. So thank you for the opportunity to have that. My wife and I have found this, our community to be a great place. It's a great place to raise our children. Our children went through all from kindergarten all the way through when they left to go to universities and here. So our experience has been wonderful. And I want to thank Senator Van Hollen's office for his certificate and proclamation. Please give Chris our best regards. He's been a friend for many years. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you. And now, Councilmember. Now, to be real official, we actually have to read the proclamation. So, whereas retired Navy Commander Everett Alvarez, Jr., a distinguished Vietnam War veteran and a former prisoner of war for 8 years and 7 months, has been selected to receive the prestigious Congressional Gold Medal in recognition of his exceptional service to the United States, and
whereas this award is one of the highest civilian honors in the United States, presented to individuals whose contributions to the nation have been extraordinary, and
whereas Secretary of the Navy Carlos Del Toro has announced the future naming of the guided missile frigate after Commander Everett Alvarez, and
And whereas his capture and time in captivity became emblematic of the sacrifices made by POWs, and his perseverance and courage in the face of adversity continue to inspire veterans and civilians alike, and
whereas Commander Alvarez holds numerous military decorations, including the Silver Star, 2 Legions of Merit, the Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 Bronze Stars, and 2 Purple Hearts, and
whereas following his distinguished military career, he served as Deputy Director of the Peace Corps, Deputy Administrator of the Veterans Administration, helping pioneer vet centers for combat veterans, including one in Silver Spring, Maryland, Vice President for the Government Services with the Hospital Corporation of America, and is a former member and chair of the Uniformed Services University Board of Regents, and
Whereas in recognition of the lifetime achievements, the U.S. Congress honored him in 2000 by naming a post office in Rockville, Maryland, after him. And in 2008, he was celebrated as one of the 25 greatest public servants of the past 25 years by the Council for Excellence in Government and
whereas Commander Alvarez and his wife Tammy have made Rockville, Maryland their home since 1976, contributing immensely to the local community. Now therefore be it resolved that the County Executive Mark Elridge and the entire Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby honor and celebrate Commander Everett Alvarez Jr. for his outstanding achievements and sacrifices as a true American hero whose legacy will continue to inspire generations. Thank you very much. And Tammy, you want to come down for some pictures?
going down there? How are you?
All right, thank you everyone who is here to recognize Commander Alvarez. As we said, he's had a good number of medals and awards presented to him, but nothing is complete if you don't get a proclamation from Montgomery County Council. So thank you for being here today, and Mr. Gray and everyone who joined us. We're going to, thank you. We're going to move on to our next proclamation, and that is recognizing Education Appreciation Week by the Montgomery County Council Education and Culture Committee. So I'm going to turn it over to Council Vice President Giwando.
All right, if I could have, once we clear it, thank you again for your service, sir, and all of his family and friends that are here. The Education and Culture Committee to come down, and then once we safely clear the aisle, anyone who's here for the education, maybe start coming down this way. If you're here for the Education Appreciation Proclamation and you want to join us, you can come behind us here. We can fit you. I promise. Oh, Dr. Williams, you are here. Good. Yeah, it is. I didn't know you were here. Yeah, just even out. All right. There we go. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you today to celebrate and appreciate
championships with the boys teams and 2 with the girls teams, and he was a yeller as a coach, and was tough, very, very, very tough. But the lessons that Coach DeBone provided for me and the support that he gave me throughout my high school and collegiate career, because I played soccer in college as well, were extraordinary. And I can say, with all honesty, I would not be standing up here without Coach DeBone. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your leadership.
All right. Thank you, and I'm sure you needed all that yelling, Councilor Alvarez. So we're going to hear from a couple of our great educators starting. They're going to give a 1 minute to 90-second remarks. Just do your best. Dr. Jermaine Williams, and I know he will stay under budget because Montgomery College is always under budget. Dr. Jermaine Williams, Montgomery College.
Thank you, Vice President Giwando. Thank you, members of the Education and Culture Committee, and thank you to all of our council members for your deep commitment to education, especially to education that is framed around diversity, equity, and inclusion that we can lean into here at Montgomery in Montgomery County and Montgomery College. It's great to spend 60 seconds talking about the pulse of Montgomery College, and while students are the center of all we do in education, our faculty and staff are really the individuals who make everything happen. And we just want to uplift them today and each and every day. They are the individuals in the places and spaces meeting our students throughout their educational journeys. They help our students become inspired. They help them, seek their passions. They help them develop into engaged residents and create the workforce that drives Montgomery County. Our faculty and staff are the backbone of Montgomery College, and we're appreciative to them, so very deeply appreciative. And so on behalf of Montgomery College, I want to thank our faculty and staff. I also want to thank the County Council for uplifting our faculty and staff and our educational entities, because it is with your commitment that we're able to have and hold awesome faculty and staff and be in awesome world-class facilities. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Assistant Principal LaFay Howard. Are you here, LaFay? Okay, you were in the back. So she is the assistant principal at Winston Churchill High School, but she's also, get ready for this, the Maryland Assistant Principal of the Year. And a national finalist.
Thank you so much. I have been in education for 22 years. I've been an assistant principal for 9 years at Winston Churchill High School. And I was incredibly surprised and honored to be nominated by my principal, Mr. John Taylor, for this prestigious award. We do our very best at Churchill to make sure that our students achieve the best educational outcomes, that they thrive in a safe place that's supportive. But one thing that we really focus on at Churchill is embracing and celebrating everyone, making sure that all diverse needs are met, and that really has been our focus in the past 4 years that I've been there with our work with No Place for Hate, and just really cultivating a culture where students feel acknowledged. So that's really been our work, and I'm so humbly grateful to the County Council and everyone for this recognition, and I will continue the work as best as I can. So thank you.
It was the coolest thing. Me and a few others were able to. So they created a auditorium full of people, and she didn't know she was the assistant principal for Maryland and going to be nominated. And she walked in, and it was like a whole parade and band. It was awesome. Next, we have Miss Rebecca Boutram, who's an English teacher at Odessa Shannon Middle School and is a finalist for Washington Post Teacher of the Year.
All right. If you're a teacher in the room, you can understand when I say that sometimes being a teacher feels like being the burning bush in the story of Moses, because we are lit with purpose, burning with passion, and somehow still standing. So, right? Yes. There are days that feel like I've given everything that I have, and I'm still up against impossible odds because of the immense challenges that our students face. I'm not just teaching content. I'm competing with countless voices and influences, all while trying to help young people see their worth and inspire them to believe they can achieve something more. But my colleagues and I keep showing up because we believe in our students. As a mother of 5, 2 of whom came into our family as teenagers through the foster system, I've seen firsthand how transformative consistent love, structure, and high expectations can be. And that same belief guides my work at Odessa Shannon Middle School. So I'm just going to skip a whole bunch. But teaching has never been about test scores for me. It's about people. It's about lighting a path forward for students who often feel like the odds are stacked against them. It's about being that steady flame, consistent, hopeful, and deeply human. So many teachers do burn out as they strive to meet the students' social, emotional, and academic needs. So it's clear that we can't do this work alone, and that's why today's recognition matters. Not just because it feels good to be appreciated, which it does, thank you, because it reminds us that we're not alone. When the council takes time to honor and celebrate educators, it sends a powerful message that our schools matter, that our work matters, and that our community stands with us in shaping the next generation. So thank you for seeing us, for honoring the calling we've answered, and for continuing to invest in our students, our schools, and the people doing the work every day. Your partnership makes a difference. Your support fuels the flame. And together, we help keep it burning. Thank you.
All right, our last speaker, then we'll read the proclamation, is David Stein, President of MCEA.
Thank you, Council Member. My name is David Stein, and I am President of MCA. I'm joined today by our elected leadership of MCA. Together, we represent 14,000, more than 14,000 hardworking certificated educators in MCPS. And I'm proud to join them and the celebrated educators here to see them get well-deserved recognition. We thank you for that recognition. It is always nice to see our members get recognized for their hard work. But council members, recognition is great coming from parents and students, but from you, from our funders, it is simply not enough. Today, I am asking you to go beyond rhetoric, beyond words, to help make the lives of these accomplished educators in the room today, and the many, many more laboring today in our schools all over the county, better by fully funding next year's school budget. And let's be real. We need to generate the revenues to avoid cuts in our budget. cuts that could disproportionately hit our most vulnerable students, students with disabilities, students in poverty, emergent multilingual learners, students that these teachers spent day in and day out advocating for. And if we need the revenue, we are calling on the council to do what's right by our students and increase the income tax rate by 0.1%. Or be transparent about what exactly you intend to cut if there is no increase. We have done our part. We have taken big hits on our health insurance plans, and every day there are teachers digging into their pockets to pay for their own supplies for their classrooms. We have done our part. It is time for you to do your part. Now, council members, I know and I respect all of you. And I know that you are truly and sincerely advocates of public education. But you can't just support public education in the good times. You have to support it in the hard times as well. In fact, especially in the hard times. Because we see across the country now, in real time, what happens when governments start abandoning public education. We can't double down on that in Montgomery County. We need to stand up, even in these terrible times that we're finding ourselves in. We need to stand up and support public education in Montgomery County. So, council member, thank you today for the recognition. We truly appreciate it. But let's go beyond those words and make the difficult decisions necessary to make the investments that our students and these educators deserve. Let's make Educator Appreciation Week truly live up to its name. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A lot better than 2 years ago. We appreciate that, David. All right. So we're going to read this proclamation. We're going to rotate. The County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, issues the following proclamation. Whereas Montgomery County celebrates Education Appreciation Week from May 5th to 10th in recognition of the incredible importance of all professionals in learning environments. Every contributor to our educational ecosystem is actively shaping our future, from early childhood care to post-secondary programs. Across private and public institutions, Montgomery County has an incredible network of highly skilled and dedicated educators. And
whereas we celebrate our school's administrators, who are the leaders within a school whose charge it is to uplift students and build a strong infrastructure of learning. Their expertise can transform schools into safe and thriving communities. And
whereas we celebrate teachers concurrently with Teacher Appreciation Week in honor of all skilled facilitators of discovery and development at all levels. Teachers in Montgomery County are charged with fostering learning across all academic fields, supporting the social, emotional, and physical well-being of students, and uplifting the school community. And
thank you. This is good teamwork. Whereas we celebrate educational support professionals who create an environment where learning can take place, from feeding students to maintaining safe and clean facilities to transporting students from school and extracurricular activities to maintaining secure school environments and coordinating all responsibilities of main offices. These professionals are a vital part of the educational ecosystem. And whereas we celebrate all other contributors to the educational environment, including school nurses, counselors, psychologists, substitute teachers, central staff members, volunteers, and so many more. Each one plays a critical role in helping foster the overall well-being of our students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Education and Culture Committee and the entire County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby celebrate Education Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the County Council encourages all residents to take a moment to thank their local educators and support staff for their hard work and dedication. Signed on the 7th day of May in the year 2025 by the members of the Education and Culture Committee and our council president on behalf of the entire council. Thank you so much for coming today.
right, thank you so much for everyone who joined us this afternoon for both of those two very important proclamations. Next, we have item 10 is a public hearing on a resolution to approve amendments to the Comprehensive Water Supply and Sewage Systems Plan, Water and Sewer Category Change Request. A Transportation and Environment Committee work session will be scheduled at a later date. Those wishing to submit material for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business on May 16, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have one speaker this afternoon, Abdullah Bagari. Mr. Bagari, please come down. Thank you, Mr. Bagari. If you want to have a seat, and then you can press the button in front of you. Ms. Tanaval will show you, and you are ready to go whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abdullah Bagari, the owner of the property located at 13211 Ridge Drive, Rockville. I requested a sewer category change from S6 to S3 to allow me to connect my property to the public sewer system because the water table in my property is too high and I'm not able to install a septic system. WSSC has confirmed that the existing low pressure sewer main on Valley Drive has sufficient capacity to serve my property. I submitted the document. Please see the submitted document. The rear of my property is adjacent to the planned public sewer system envelope under the 2002 Potomac Subregion Master Plan sewer service policy. The sewer connections within the public rights of way are permitted. Also, WSSC identified a potential sewer main in Cleveland Drive that could serve my property. See the submitted document. And in addition, WSSC conditionally approved my sewer service connection request in May 2024, and the main condition is to change the sewer category to S3 from the county. I plan to connect to this low pressure sewer system located in Valley Drive or Cleveland Drive, and the low pressure sewer main extension will be within the public right of the way. I will pay the design and construction costs of the sewer main extension. My application is consistent within the master plan policy and WSCC requirement, and I am respectfully requesting the county council to approve my request. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. That is it for our speakers this afternoon. This public hearing is now closed. The council is going to continue this afternoon reviewing department and agency budgets for the FY26 operating budget and amendments to the FY25 230 capital improvement programs. This afternoon, we're going to start with the Office of Consumer Protection. So I think I'll turn it over to Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Chair Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And I know that you're coming down. There you go. They had the longest trip to get here. They're on the same floor as we were on. So. Thank you very much, Madam President. The Public Safety Committee supports the executive's recommended budget of $3,007,804, an increase of 5.9% from FY25. From FY25. Additionally, the committee recommended adding 2 new positions to the reconciliation list, 1 investigator position and 1 administrative specialist position. Both were included in the Office of Management Budget's fiscal impact statement as needed to implement Bill 625, which we did, obviously, consumer protection, defective tenancies as deceptive trade practices. These positions have since been included in the county executive's operating budget amendments sent over on April 24th and May 5th, that the annual cost of the two FTEs is $248,341. And with your indulgence, I will turn to Mr. Mia and Director Friedman for anything else.
Good afternoon. So yes, the executive did send over 2 budget amendments adding to positions to his recommended budget. The cost is actually revised because it reflects the 3-month lapse, so the amount is $189,671. And so I think the decision points for the full council is whether to include those positions in the final budget or to add them to the rec list or to not approve.
Thank you. Director Friedman, do you want to speak to your budget overall and then maybe these 2 specific items?
We're just happy to be here. Want to make sure if anyone needs a hard copy of the report that we just issued yesterday regarding an issue that relates to landlord-tenant things of sorts. So we're happy to be here. We're going to work hard with all the other agencies with respect to the new activity that we'll be doing.
Great, thank you so much. And that is a terrific report. And I just want to say thank you to your office and working with our office on the water bills and utility bills. It's been a real issue for residents, and just really appreciate the time and diligence you all took on that. And looking forward to acting on some of your recommendations as soon as we're done with budget. So I'll turn it over to Councilmember Mink.
Right, thank you. Just wanted to note a conversation that we had in committee regarding these 2 positions, noting that the only reason that they weren't included in the original budget that the county executive sent over was because of the timing of the bill. And so we did request, and thank you to Councilmember Lutke for raising this, we did request that on the reconciliation list that they be noted as such, that they essentially have an asterisk that this is required funding, that really this should have been something that we would have been able to move directly into the budget during committee. But again, it was a timing issue that prevented that from happening. So my hope is that we can do that early on and make sure that it's not competing against other items that were additions. The positions are, again, this is really the minimum that the executive branch determined would be needed to enact the bill that we all passed, and it is a bill that we anticipate creating savings in terms of staff time from DHCA, that we anticipate potentially either bringing in revenue through non-compliant landlords who are currently not paying their way in court, or even better, having those landlords change their behavior and ensure that our tenants are able to live in safe and healthy properties that are up to code, as everybody here should be able to have the expectation to be able to do. So really appreciate the efforts by the executive branch to whittle this down to really the bare bones needed to get this going, including the 3-month lapse. That's very much appreciated, and hope that we will be able to move those swiftly into the budget with other items. Thank you.
Terrific. All right. So we have a committee recommendation to add these 2 items to the reconciliation list and the overall budget for the Office of Consumer Protection. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Mia. All right. Thank you. You guys don't have far to go, so I appreciate you being here. Next, we are going to stick with Chair Katz on the Montgomery County Police Department.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Safety Committee, and I see they're coming down, but the Public Safety Committee approved the county executive's recommended budget for the police department, included an increase of $22,564,198, which is a 6.84% increase from FY25. It includes $2.4 million in programmatic and staffing enhancements, including addition of security officers for Progress Place, expansion of the Drone as First Responders program in Germantown, enhancing the Real-Time Information Center, and funding the Speed on Green pilot program. I think it's also called Mellow on Yellow. Is that what and that's that if someone is going through a red light area, that they can either, the camera can capture their speed, or and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, right, Dave? But or that they ran the red light. They would not be getting both tickets. one or the other. So it's speed on green is what the committee name is. The committee also approved the executive's recommended CIP amendment delaying the Outdoor Firearms Training Center until after FY30. We did, however, recommend placing $300,000 in the FY27 budget to develop a new program of requirements with specific guidelines and language. This range was built in 1989, and the project was initially included in the FY07 through 12 CIP. A new program of requirements is needed, obviously, to meet the current needs of the department. On operating budget side, the committee placed 2 non-recommended reductions on the reconciliation list totaling $1.39 million. We're going to discuss this a little further here. But the committee asked the elimination of 6 sworn officers in Montgomery Village Central Business District team and 6 vacant sworn positions in the gang unit. At the time of the committee meeting, these reductions were taken with the understanding that the elimination of these positions would not have a short-term operational impact. After this meeting, it was brought to our attention that a recent circuit court ruling on the MCPD gang unit validation process has required the department to add additional oversight and man-hours to perform technical reviews and confirm or refute records. This oversight process will be more labor-intensive, and we're going to ask the chief to talk about this in a few seconds. This oversight process will be more labor-intensive for the department and require a significant increase in hours required in preparations for these cases. Given this additional information, I'm going to make a motion in a few moments to remove the elimination of the 6 officers in the gang unit from the reconciliation list as a reduction. But first, with your indulgence, Madam President, I'd like to hear from Chief Hamada about this ruling and impact on the department. And after he speaks, I'll make a motion. Please. Okay. You're going to need to touch on this.
Specifically address the gang piece.
Please.
Yeah, so the gang validation becomes relevant in both gang participation charges as well as proving motive in our gang cases. In order to prove this, the SAO needs gang validation sheets to be completed. The gang validation requires investigators from the gang unit to compile all relevant information to be able to comport with federal code requirements for gang validation. Each validation packet takes approximately 80 hours of work for one detective, and that's subjective. It could vary depending on the complexity of the case. Based upon the recent circuit court ruling, the MCPD gang unit will now need another investigator to perform a peer or technical review to confirm or refute the records that are provided by the initial investigator, which will add additional man hours. It is unknown exactly how much time this technical review will take, and it remains to be seen. The investigator will then need to be present in court for the entirety of the criminal trial and often motions hearing, which requires many hours of preparation for a homicide case and can take anywhere from 1 week to multiple weeks, which takes them away from their other duties. The SAO is currently working 7 gang participation homicide cases that will require a minimum of 560 hours to complete validation sheets. Please note that this does not include the initial investigation time required by the detective leading up to identifying and subsequently charging a suspect. This could lead to additional training requirements for detectives and supervisors as well. And as we begin to see these requests being made, we anticipate it being made more and more often in additional cases. We also anticipate needing enhancements to our record management systems and policy enhancements potentially, all of which will require additional staffing. And I'll let Assistant Chief Parker Lane from Investigative Services add anything if he feels.
Chief, I think you covered it.
There you go.
Okay. Well, based on that, I'd move that we remove the elimination of the 6 sworn officer positions and the gang unit from the reconciliation list.
Chair Katz, may I add something before you
Sure,
take this under
absolutely,
consideration
Ms.
as the
Roth.
full council? I just wanted to bring to your attention, and I had sent it to the chiefs of staff earlier this week, that OMB has updated the actual costs for those two recommended reductions. And so as you take this under consideration, instead of reducing expenditures by $800,000 for the gang unit, it would be a reduction of $642,000. The Montgomery Village piece changes as well. Instead of a reduction of $583,000, that would be a reduction of about $719,000. We will update that in the tracking charts as we go through this process, but I wanted to let you know, as you consider this, it is a slightly different amount of money.
I appreciate that. Do you need me to repeat the motion?
No, I think we got the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Lukey, seconds. I have Councilmember Alvarez in the queue.
Thank you. I'll just be brief. So in addition to the court ruling on the merits, it's important for us to continue to have a strong gang unit. I happen to be on the Blue Ribbon Commission that recommended the development of the gang unit in 2002, and I can speak in the first person about the work and the complexity of that work that they do in our community. What Chief Yamada didn't also mention is that there is a lot of cross-jurisdictional work that happens in these specific cases,
Yep.
which also requires a lot of extra time to follow through. And in light of the incredibly unjust and humane immigration policies being set forth by this president, it's especially important for us to reflect the reality on the ground and provide support, but also continue the work so that we don't ever go back to where we were at one point, which is where we had too many homicides related specifically to gang violence. And everybody has worked so hard to get us to the point where we are now. We don't want to go backwards. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to just follow up on Councilmember Albanaz's question on, since we have this court case, I just was curious, are these positions that are ready, if we put them back in the budget, ready to go, or is there any preliminary work that needs to be done internally to get us to a place to actually hire these positions? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not hiring the positions.
Okay.
These positions are vacant right now.
So there are, so we have to hire people though.
Well, to fill them,
Right.
if we fill them now, it's taken from patrol.
Right.
You know, so we haven't done that because we aren't able to do that because patrol is so short. So we're looking for additional folks to be in the classes, to be able to put bodies in
No,
those
no,
seats.
I understand that. I guess what I'm asking is, given the court decision, is there any other work that needs to be done internally to kind of set up the processes before you fill the vacancies?
Well,
Another
either-
way of saying it is hire people.
Yeah, either to figure out where someone else would be reassigned or additional work being given, probably maybe taking from another investigative unit, or ultimately it comes from Darren's unit, which is in patrol, which we're really hesitant to do right now.
Okay, so, yeah. Officer
I think additionally, Council President, we're reviewing our policies and our procedures right now, and I know Chief Parkerlone's working through developing the whole process to actually get to how putting this ruling into play looks, other than what we've got so far, which is we need these personnel and gang to do these verifications. So it'll be both. It'll be figuring out where we can take someone to fill the vacant positions, and then also just making sure that the correct policy is in place, which is being
thank
written
you.
now.
Yes, thank you. My question wasn't as clear as it could be, but that was my question, and I understand the answer. Thank you very much. Councilmember Mink.
Thanks. So we haven't been able to hire them yet. There were efforts to hire for these positions previously, is that right? But we haven't filled them yet?
So over the last couple of years during this attrition crisis, the chiefs have made decisions on where our personnel need to be and where we're holding vacancies. And at the time, we were holding more gang vacancies and other units, just based on the flow of the work at the time. One of the things that's unique to us, because everyone's a patrol officer eventually from the start and then through history, we can keep more officers in patrol and then leave some vacancy if we can absorb the work. And I think what we're saying right now is we're not going to be able to absorb the work, and we're going to have to put officers in those positions now because of this ruling.
That makes sense. How quickly would you be able to hire, and would you expect to be filling through the hiring process, the 6 roles, given that you are obviously, you're balancing with needs in other places as well? I'm not sure if the timing of each of the court cases, et cetera, so I assume that you would be making judgments based on all that.
Correct. So based on creating the policy, creating the procedures, then the chief will be faced with the decision of where he's going to take the positions, take the bodies, essentially, to put into those positions. Theoretically, we could put persons in those positions in the next 3 months, 4 months, perhaps sooner if the need is that critical, which it is a critical need. So as far as hiring though goes, certainly right now our last class we graduated 20. This next class coming up, we're still working through. We expect somewhere between 25 and 30 in that class. It's still not keeping up with the attrition we have of officers. So there are going to be services elsewhere that aren't met because of this new burden from this ruling, and it'll be up to the chief where those services are going to end up being missed.
So we wouldn't expect to be moving people from other positions, tomorrow, right?
No, we have a constant attrition of people that leave every month via retirement and leave vacancies in other places, and that's how we've dealt with things to minimize the impact on officers. We've allowed vacancies to occur and then just didn't fill them. So this would be the chief making a decision that I want to fill these gang positions and then either leave other positions that, someone retiring on June 1st, leave those vacant, or to pull more officers out of patrol, which increases the overtime work for the patrol officers.
And then you also have to factor in promotions. We just had a sergeant corporal promotion. Where do those promotees come from? What vacancies does that create? We meet together, myself and the 4 assistant chiefs, on a weekly basis, if not more often, to discuss just these types of things. Where do we need to put people? Where it's the most critical need? Where can we afford to take a pause? Things like that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if given the timing of the court cases and the timing of having policies that are ready to all of those pieces, if it may, we just found a little bit of savings with the OCP positions because they included a 3-month lapse. So I'm wondering if that would make sense for any of these positions, for some of these, if there might be space in there to find some savings that still allow you to get the work done that you need to get done. That's a question. Yep.
Say that again.
Okay. Would it make sense to lapse any number of these positions for any amount of time if, for example, that person is not going to be needed in the courtroom immediately? I don't know what the timing is of each of these cases, right? But you need to have somebody, it sounds like, for each of them.
I think lapsing positions is much more appealing to us than a permanent cut or an abolishment of a position.
Right.
My understanding from the council was that the desire was to find long-term permanent cuts and not short-term.
Right. That's what we did in committee. We didn't have any of the context here. But so now as we have more context, and so I'm just trying to think through what is the most economical way to think about this now. And so if there's lapses that we could consider as an alternative to the elimination of the position, right? Or so we can still find savings in a way that makes sense and you still get the positions that you need when you need them, then that would be good for us to know.
Yeah, like I said, I think lapsing positions would be much more appealing to us.
Okay. So that would still allow you then to have folks handling the court cases, the positions still exist. Okay.
We're just at a critical juncture here.
Right.
Whether it's lapse or a cut, anything that takes away is going to impact the service we provide, the types of cases, the amount of time, things like that. It's
Sure, yeah, I understand that. I'm trying to figure out if there's lapsing that we can do that doesn't prevent you from having the body there in the courtroom, right? If you've got if the court case is if some of those court cases are further down the road, then it would certainly make sense to, and also thinking about how fast you'd be able to get somebody in the position. Those are the types of questions, right, for us to consider, just to ensure that we're finding dollars where we're able to.
And all I would add is getting somebody new in that position,
Mhm.
they may not be ready to go to court and withstand voir dire to be a gang investigator for court purposes. They need
Right.
a lot of training, they need a lot of reps under their body, under their time in the unit. So getting somebody in as early as possible to get them trained up to be able to do what the court is requesting of them, what the state's attorney's office needs of them to assist in the prosecution to make our citizens safe, that's important.
Understood. So if we didn't lapse any of the 6 positions at all, then are you confident that you would be able to immediately fill and start training all 6 of those positions, or is there space there for us to, without causing harm to the work that would be done anyway, to lapse some of those positions for some of that time?
So again, we can get those positions filled by, and need to get them filled by the beginning of the fiscal year. What I will say is that the county executive's budget does offer a significant amount of lapsed positions for the one-time lapse, and I believe Lieutenant Fields has the actual number. We're down 190 officers right now, and I believe a large portion of that is being lapsed in this budget proposal. So what will eventually happen if more positions are lapsed for the year, which again, as the chief said, that's preferable, because we have shown that we're still trying to hire. We're still not ahead of our attrition. But there's a strong possibility that we'd have to come back to this council in December to get a supplemental so that we can just hire the folks for the next class in January, because that's how significant. I want to say it's $20 million that is being lapsed just from the county executive.
Mm-hmm.
And then keep in mind, even if we were to fill all 200 positions, that still does not get us to where, at the staffing level, we would need to be. We'd still be behind, even if we filled all our vacancies.
Understood. Just trying to make sure that we make this line as we consider whether or not to move it off the cut list as economical and palatable to everybody as possible. And then in terms of the policies, I look forward to coming back after budget to understand how this works now compared to how it worked before, et cetera. I think that's going to be important questions, given that there was just a court case and, that necessitated the need for these positions, making sure, especially during these times, that we and that the public are really clear. And again, y'all, when we have asked you to really come forward with transparency about policies, we've seen that be really beneficial, and I think that this is one of those areas where that'd be beneficial as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Sales.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick question about the vacancies. How long have the positions been vacant for, the gang unit positions?
Cody, or I'm not sure the exact length of time. We can come back and answer the question though.
Okay, and then how long does the training usually take? Once they're onboarded after 3 months, how long does the training for them to be deployed to?
In a gang
area?
capacity?
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably an extensive 3 to 6 month sort of onboarding process whenever you assume a specialized investigative position like that sort of gets you acclimated to where you need to be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Girondo.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. Thank you all for being here. I just want to understand the chief. When you started off, you said the court case would require one new reviewer.
Yeah, so currently, let's just say we want to validate you as a gang member. Detective Frank is assigned
I hope
the
you don't
case,
want to do that. But.
and he goes through a lengthy process, evaluations, criteria that needs to be met, checklists, things like that. It's a whole process. After that, I then, as the technical it's a technical review, a professional review, have to come in second, re-examine everything that based on what Chief Frank had done independently, and then make my own assumption and say, yes, I agree with Chief Frank, or no, I think we're wrong here. We confer, maybe there's a disagreement, maybe there's something that's missed. And this is all in an effort to, we have consistently gone above and beyond before we say you're validated as a gang member.
Yeah, right. And that's obviously the reason the court ruling, obviously we have people being deported unjustly because they're being said that they're gang members and there's not validation. Obviously our department does more work than that, so I understand the policy objective, but the issue I'm having is just not understanding how that relates to the 12 positions. Because so if you have one other person that's going to take some more time, I get that. That makes total sense. How does 6 of these positions were gang unit related, 6 were Montgomery Village Central Business District. So help me understand why the recommendation and the motion that we're considering is to restore all 12 positions if 6 aren't related to, or was it the 6? Excuse me, to restore all. Okay, but because I think you're gonna bring that up too. But let's just keep it in the 6-to-1 thing. Why is it not just like restoring 1 or 2 of them? I'm not understanding why it's all 6, given what you just said that there's another person needed to review. Do you understand what I'm saying? Why is it?
So there's 2 things that are happening here. First of all, there's this workload to do this review. So basically, the group of 6 people who are out there doing work as investigators, as gang investigators, they're now doubling their work because they're doing it twice, essentially. Not quite as in depth, but they're doing it twice. So it's a workload that didn't exist before. We've been able to get by because of the cyclical nature of gang violence. But one of the things that we're noting, although we're very proud of our achievements at lowering crime right now, I will tell you what we are seeing, and this happens. I've seen this happen for the last 15 years. We get lulled into complacency, if you would. We don't have enough work for them, and then next thing you know, and this is what happened out of the creation of the gang unit last time, is MS-13 became highly active and many people were murdered. What we're seeing right now is, despite lowering crime, we're seeing an increase in gang activity that we also need to address, and that's the other concern.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
So filling these positions was going to come around, and now this court ruling is making it even more critical that we fill them.
Okay. Well, I get that, and I get look, you're like any agency, you're not going to come up here and advocate for less positions. I get it, and you're doing it for a good reason because you all want to keep everyone safe. What I'm trying to understand is the committee made a recommendation to a cut in a tough budget of not an insignificant cut of 1.36. If I added Mr. Farag's the new numbers, 642 and 719, I think were the 2 numbers. Oh, so 1.3 or almost $1.4 million reduction. And the justification for removing it from the reduction list is saying we have to have another review. Another reviewer has to review. And
Can I jump in for a second? That's the inaccurate part. What we didn't know about the court ruling. We didn't, for the gang units now, just that part. Sure. We did not know that this was going to be a necessity for them for the additional workload. That's why.
Oh, I understand. So there's the change in circumstances, the court ruling, which happened, which I get, and so that's why we're discussing. It's going to be more work. You need more capacity. What I'm not understanding is why couldn't it be two more, or like why couldn't we take 4 and remove them? Why do you need 6? And you're saying in part because we think the gang activity is going to that's kind of not related to the reason that's being posited for the restoration. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand why it's 6?
Well, I understand what you're saying, Council Member. I guess the 2 things to that. If you eliminate 6 positions and we have again, gang problems rising, we need more resources there. You've eliminated 6 positions. We can't go against the council wishes to create more gang positions. But that's another
Right, that's not what
that's
we're
another,
talking about.
but that's
Yeah.
right. But that's another situation that impacts staffing. Now, as far as the work that is required from this ruling, it's not only reviewing, and again, I believe that the chief hit on it, or Chief Parker Lone hit on it. It's not just doing the work twice in the validation, but it's also the time that's going to need to go into the court hearings, the time that these officers are going to be out of service, ensuring that this ruling is abided by, and then having to deal with the gang investigations that are going on that we need to continue to do to stay on top of the situation in Montgomery County, to make sure that we don't go down one of those cycles again and have the issues that we had before.
Right, I get that.
And we are right in the middle of the ISB work study that's going to help us try to figure out exactly where we need people, how many we need, things like that.
Right. And I know, and that was, I appreciate you mentioning that, and that was something you said, Assistant Chief Frank, also, that we're not sure how much, because it's a new thing. You're not sure how much this time is going to take, what the operational impact will be. In a tough budget year, it's just, that's why I'm trying to jive. You say, okay, you need one more person to do these reviews, but it will have other operational impact. Is that 6 people? Is there a way we could do 3? That's what I'm trying to get at. But it sounds like there's a lot of unknown in the motion before us. In order to just intelligently vote on it, I need to understand what that impact is as best we can, realizing you don't fully know that. So that's the source of my questions. I appreciate the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you, Madam President. So let me be clear. I don't want any positions cut, right? Because what I have come to understand in the aftermath is that the 20 million, aside from the case, and we can talk about the gang case and that decision and the application of it here in Montgomery County, because what it is applying, well, it said it was applying a particular Maryland Supreme Court case, but also applying 2 rules of Maryland Rules of Evidence. But anyway, there's a bit of conflict in there. Gonna volunteer myself to help you work that out in the aftermath. But let's just say it's complex, and you do have a constitutional obligation to do your part in the whole speedy trial process as well, correct? Right? And you don't want to be a part of the problem for some defendant not getting their trial. And we already have other challenges with the circuit court trying to get through our criminal dockets. And part of that is making sure we're going to have our investigators, and in this case, they are considered an expert witness for purposes of these criminal prosecutions. They need to be available for those trials, otherwise trials get postponed. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Now, in the $20 million that was listed in the packet that was assumed as a lapse, what I'd love to know, because that $20 million encompasses a certain amount of vacant positions for the department. Can somebody please tell me how many vacant positions in the department were assumed to account for that $20 million lapse that's already been accounted for in the budget?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember. Lieutenant Cody Fields. In the budget, that $20.3 million lapse that we're actually having is the equivalent of 187 police officer 3 positions. And to put that just a little bit more into perspective, we currently have 184 vacant positions total on the entire department. So we're asking to lapse more than we currently have.
Correct. And then, as I recall, there was a reference in there as to how many current officers are in the, oh, don't ask me what the acronym stands for, the deferred retirement the drop. We're just going to call it the drop. Everybody here knows what I'm talking about. All right. So there's 44 people in the drop right now, and 17 must retire this year. Is that right?
That sounds correct.
Or sound accurate? I don't know. I got it out of Ms. Farag's packet, so I'm gonna defer to her if my numbers are wrong.
If I can add on that, Councilmember, only because we're at the beginning of the year, we had another 7 entered for the start of May and another 6 entered for the start of June. So it's even more in.
Okay. So we're now close to about 60 people in the drop, right? And you're trying to put together your next academy class?
Yes.
All right, and how long does it take from the time someone enters an academy class to the time that they have completed their FTO after academy graduation?
Yeah, I was going to say 43 weeks.
43 weeks.
Yes.
So it's almost a year, right? Yes. Okay. But what I am understanding in the lapse amount that has been taken being $20.3 million, and knowing the staffing challenges you all face, and you have to do a lot of moving around and flexibility, as you mentioned, Chief Yamada, within there, having reduced the budget already by the $20.3 million, that leaves you very little flexibility in terms of overtime for your staffing. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And in addition to the gang-related ruling and what needs to be done to comply with Rochkin versus Stevenson moving forward, you still have to pay officers overtime to staff things like First Amendment events, correct?
Yes, and all those overtime costs are increasing.
Right. Okay. And so if we do things like take additional laps, where these 12 positions, the 6 for 6D, which is not subject to this motion, and the 6 for the gang unit that are currently vacant, were those 12 positions counted in the $20.3 million that was already assumed in laps?
They were part of the calculation. Veronica Howard from the Office of Management and Budget. Yes, they were part of the universe of vacant positions to determine the lapse.
Right. So essentially what ended up happening when the committee took its vote in committee without knowing it was that we double counted some things, correct?
Exactly. And
Okay.
not only that, I mean, if we...
It's not irrelevant. Thank you for explaining this.
It's not exactly doubling it, but what it's doing it is increasing the possibility for the department to come next year to ask for a supplemental. So the lapse is a calculation based on the vacancy, a number of vacant positions. So those vacant positions were taken into consideration at the time of determining the lapse. There is flexibility for the department to still continue hiring, but if they reach certain limit, they would have to come for a supplemental. In other words, if we change that balance between the lapse and vacant positions and we make vacant numbers to be lower, it is likely that they will come next year for a supplemental.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was all clear and all out on the table, because it wasn't all out on the table, nor was it clear when we had the hearing in the Public Safety Committee. And I think that that's a problem, because I think that we made a decision not realizing the numerical impact on the staffing and what that meant for ability to be flexible and to hire and to make sure, even though there are persistent staffing challenges, that we're still able to deliver the same level of public safety services that we have been delivering over time, because that's what the public expects. So with that, yield.
Thank you. Councilmember Frieda.
Thank you. A number of my questions have been asked, although I just want to hone in on the question because I think the elaboration explained it, but I think the initial response was a little bit confusing, at least to me. It was not assumed originally in the lapse that the 6 positions would.
It was. I mean, so lapse is determined based on the vacancy of the department. So if they had 200 vacant positions and 6 of them were within the 200, it was.
So are you assuming that the positions are going to be left unfunded or funded in the lapse assumption? So I think we're hearing different things. I just want to hone in on that. The explanation made sense. The line of questioning made sense to me. I just want to make sure everybody is hearing the same thing, because what is assumed and what is not assumed, I think, is like a Rorschach test right now. People are hearing what they want.
The lapse assumption is to have at least $20 million available or savings. Why? Because as the departments continue hiring and they have their classes, they're having attrition. So, but this still leaves them some budget for them to continue hiring and increasing that pool of positions that they have already filled.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
You don't.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Is this, do you know, looking back over the last couple of years, is this about the same level,
No, please, please.
of lapse that we've taken in the police department, or is this
No.
greater?
This is greater.
By how
year,
much?
6.
Like $6 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so two questions. One is the budgeted lapse,
Mhm.
which you just answered. So last year it was about 14 million, this year it's 20.3 million?
Yeah, well, this year is about 19 something that is 1.1 that is for something unrelated, 15 positions, security guards. So total is $20 million.
Okay, what is the actual lapse number for the first half of the fiscal year? So the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year through December 31st?
We don't calculate lapse for quarters. It is a full year.
Well, at what point would you be coming for a supplemental realizing that the flashing lights are going red and you're broke? I mean, you have to be calculating something.
Well, there is still some balance. There is still some available balance for them to hire. But if they come across to a point, if they...
I'm trying to understand. So we increased it from 13 million to 20.3 million. The question is that based on, over the past year, we realized we had way more lapse. There was a lot of wiggle room here, and so you wanted to right-size that number, or is it based on other factors? I mean, I think that's the key question here.
Right.
Because, I mean, one question is this more than we have historically done? That's relevant. But what is even more relevant is what is the realized number, the actual, not just the budgeted. So do you have an actual number?
So what I can tell you is that, as Veronica had mentioned, the way this number is calculated is a snapshot in time, and we take the number of vacant positions. Rachel Summerlin with the Office of Management and Budget. We take the number of vacant positions at that snapshot in time, assume that the department will fill a certain number, and then give them budget capacity to fill the remaining, right? So it is an assumption based on a snapshot in time, and then we monitor as the year progresses. So departments that are large and have personnel issues, we will normally see them run out of capacity on personnel expenditures in the second half of the year, and normally in the third or fourth quarter. So
we are firmly in the second half of the year. We're nearing that exact time. Yes. Where are we currently based on your most recent monitoring of this particular department, based on the 13 million lapse assumption in the current fiscal year?
We're still working on the third quarterly analysis. We're still working, grabbing all the retirees in the new hires. I mean, we're still working.
Where were you tracking the last time you did a monitor?
We can come back to you with the answer to that question.
Okay, I think it would be very relevant and helpful. What is the overtime assumption?
The overtime assumption is $11.7 million. They do spend a little bit more.
So 11.7 million, and that's in addition to the 20 million. So we're budgeting that in as a budget cost?
That's a budget cost, overtime.
Mm-hmm. I know it's an actual budget cost, but in terms of the budgeted amount.
That's the amount.
So I'm just trying to reconcile, because there's 187 police officer threes that this is roughly equivalent to. We heard earlier that there's 184
But
vacancies, those numbers are very close.
They
That
are,
means this
and I-
margin's pretty tight.
Yes.
The 11 million, is that a line item budgeted amount, or are we
One-
taking that out of lapse because we can't take multiple things?
Just one important thing
Yeah.
to clarify with the lapse in particular is that the police department does have a sizable number of civilian positions. Thank you. Much more than, for example, the fire department. So when you're considering lapse, they do have vacant positions on the civilian side, and so just by comparing the uniforms, you're not really capturing the full.
And which wouldn't be tied necessarily to the recruitment class in terms of onboarding.
But the
which is
civilian,
less flexible.
the civilian positions which are vacant are proportionally, the majority of those are dispatcher positions at the ECC.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand the change from last year to this year, which you're gonna, that we already have, and then the actual number, because the margin matters. The last piece of this is, this question of whether we do 3 or 4 or 6, or whether we lapse. What happens if we do that? I mean, the work has to happen regardless. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page of what we're talking about here.
So the chief will keep making decisions on where to put personnel, and as was discussed about how the year will go, at some point after the third quarter, we'll most likely be approaching for a supplemental, because between our overtime, which is double of what the line item is for us because of our vacancies, our PC money will be depleted, and we'll have to explain and come back and ask for a supplemental. Most likely it'll be so that we can hire people for the June 2026 class. So we'll be able to continue on through the course of the year, but at the end of the year, that's when it'll become a problem.
So we would pay out of reserves a supplemental to cover the cost, and then hire new people for the recruiting class that would start at the beginning of the next fiscal year. That would be the operating.
That's most likely
And then
how it would play out.
And yeah, okay. Well, that doesn't seem like a particularly sustainable option, so I appreciate that. And I'll just note, I had the privilege of going, as I have in previous years, with Chair Katz and Councilmember Lukey to the vigil last night, and just want to express my appreciation to the department and share my thoughts with all the families, demonstrating the sacrifice that you all make. So thank you for that. Thank you for responding to the questions. Thank you for the follow-up from Office of Management Budget, and I'll yield back.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much. Ms. Frog, did you have anything to add on this one at this point?
I just want to state briefly for the record that the vacancy run that was provided to me several weeks ago showed about $32 million in vacancies, which 20.3 million is still a lot of lapse in consideration of that, but it included both sworn and civilian professional positions. They do have personnel expenditure pressures because their budget was reduced to about 11.5 million for budgeted overtime this year, even though they've already spent 10.6 million through January 31st of this year, and it projects a total overtime budget of about 22.4 million at the end of FY25. So my understanding was the pressure was coming from the overtime, not necessarily the hiring piece.
And you've managed to thoroughly confuse me on the lapse. Are you saying, and I'm trying to ask it as plainly as I can ask, are you saying if there's a lapse that they can still go out and hire to that lapse?
The lapse was not for all their budget.
You're going to have to get a little closer.
The lapse is not for the whole budget that is available. They still have some flexibility to hire. But there is going to be a point in which they will have to come for a supplemental.
Cody, can you just reiterate the lapse number, like where we stand currently?
Yes, so Chief just asked to reiterate the lapse number, and again, the equivalency is 187 police officer 3 positions, We understand that there are vacancy positions for professional staff, but it's far fewer. We have about 70 positions, professional staff, that are vacant. And as Director Phillips mentioned as well, the majority of them are ECC's dispatchers. And our total vacant positions that we have for sworn on the police department is fewer than we're asking to lapse. If we were to include them all uniforms, we have 184 positions vacant.
So there's so many things on this table at this point, but from what I understood, and for the gang unit, which whether you hire whether somebody can go into court tomorrow morning or whether somebody can go into court after they're trained and whatnot, you have to hire them or have to have somebody move around so that you can backfill whatever it's going to be as quickly as possible. That's something that has to be done. I know that there's a staffing study from for the Investigative Service Bureau, and that can provide some more information for staffing. But that we're not going to get until July, August, whenever that is going to happen. And we have to know what we're doing between now and then. Councilmember Alvarez reminded me, I was on that 2002 bi-county task force with Prince George's County and Montgomery County for the gang task force. We went over to Prince George's County. We had mothers hold up pictures of their children who were killed by other gangs. It really had sleepless nights over it. And Montgomery County and Prince George's County worked together so that a gang member didn't stop at the county line. They came over wherever they were, and they worked together, and it did get less. We went through the prevention, the intervention, the suppression. We did all of that. And it did get better for a while, but just like, I guess, Chief, you said it first, that it's every now and then it's cyclical, and that's what happens. And so we need to get a handle on this. We need to do it as quickly as we can. I believe that at first I thought it was only the 6 vacant positions for the gang unit. I'm happy to put the other 6 on there as well. If we've already said that there is a lapse for those departments, I didn't want to count them once. I certainly don't want to count them twice. So that's where I am. I'm extremely concerned that this is how we've gotten here. And as I say, this is some additional, in fact, it's a lot of additional information that we had beyond the committee when we were there. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez. And I just, because we've had a lot of information, just to know what is on the table right now is we have a motion and a second to undo the committee's recommendation to put the gang unit of 6 FTEs to cut that. So the amendment we have is to keep that in the county executive's budget. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
And but now I hear the chair of the Public Safety Committee that you're going to amend your recommendation. Is that what's going on now? Let's just do this one. And I'm just going to keep it simple. And I want to say, what's your name, sir? The first officer?
Cody Fields.
You are quick on your feet. I'm impressed. And I don't say that often. I need to talk to you more often. I appreciate you very much.
She has never said that she wants to speak to me. I just want you to know that.
I appreciate people being ready to answer a question, and you have been, so thank you. I am going to agree with the chair's recommendation, if we can get that over with, Madam President, for a vote.
I still have something to keep.
Oh.
Council Vice President Joando.
Thank you. I think the conversation has helped me, so I just want to make sure. These positions, the motion before us to restore these positions, they've already been lapsed. The savings, which means for the public, I would say the millions watching at home, the savings would not be actualized in this year's budget because they've already been assumed lapsed. Is that correct?
They are assumed in the calculation of the lapse as being vacant. The positions itself have not been.
No, I know the positions haven't been eliminated. I'm talking about the money associated with the positions. Because what lapse is that we're assuming you're not going to hire them in the fiscal year, so that's why the savings come. Yes. So the money has been assumed.
Yes.
Right. So when I said it was irrelevant on the crosstalk, it's irrelevant because there's no savings to be had here. So then under that context, you're just arguing to not have the positions eliminated so that you can have in the future year, not this next year, because you don't have the money, but in a future year, potentially hire these folks in a different year's budget. Is that correct, Chief?
That's correct.
Okay. So under that circumstance, it's easy to support the motion because there's no savings. And that was my whole part of my question was that, is there savings? And that's why the committee, I think, did it, because they thought there was savings. But there isn't savings. And so in light of that, and in light of the increased workload, I'm happy to support the motion. So thank you.
All right, so let's just dispense with the amendment that is before us to put back into, did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. I just want to clarify, so you're not going to hire these positions for this entire fiscal year?
They are going to.
If the motion carries, because there's two, lapse happens in two ways. And Councilmember Vice President Girondo is right in the sense that the savings has been assumed. And so if these are not going to be vacant, you then have to change the lapse assumption if the lapse assumption was based on that. So in that sense, there is there has to be a put and there has to be a take. This is, Councilmember Balcom will help to, do the puts and takes and the P&L here. But the bigger question, the other way to lapse is where you lapse a particular position, where you say we're going to lapse it for 3 months or 6 months, and then we're essentially prohibiting you or a department from hiring. So there's two different questions here. One question is, are you not going to hire the 6 positions based on this decision and we're just going to keep them available? Or are we allowing you to hire them and just assuming that lapse will be, will occur in the budget? If that happens, then that lapse assumption has to be adjusted accordingly. So there, in that case, there would be an impact. So I just want to make sure.
So I believe it's going to be the second that you mentioned. We'll be able to fill the positions because the officers already exist. We'll do a position vacancy announcement, and those officers will go into that position. There'll be less officers somewhere else. Through the course of the year, we'll continue to hire officers, and we'll continue to hire officers, and then at some point later, and again, I'd almost say we're really on a fine line here because the calculation is 30 million or 30 million of PC savings based on the attrition problem we have. We're taking 20 million in lapse, leaving us, let's say, 10 million. So in that area there, we'll be playing to hire people and to manage needs. But the reality is our overtime is going to consume a great deal of that in this coming year. And again, we'll be able to hire people. We're just going to have to come back and talk about perhaps a supplemental for overtime.
So do we not think we need to make a change to the lapse assumption?
No, I don't think we do because, again, you have that 10 million difference, and we'll be able to manage through that.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Katz, do you want to speak, or can I take the vote on that First Amendment?
I would like to ask Ms. Farag if she has anything to.
I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarification and background on the lapse discussion, or at least my assumptions is that lapse is an assumption of a value of the vacant positions and what OMB thinks and the police department think they can historically hire from those vacancies. They've had a lot of challenges hiring. They said that they're having much better luck now with their emergency telecommunicator positions, which is great. But it doesn't mean that those specific 6 gang member positions or the 6 Montgomery Village member are in the lapse amount of the 20.3 million. It went to the overall calculation. It doesn't mean that there wouldn't be additional savings. I made that recommendation assuming additional savings, And that in itself is a consideration for you because it does put more fiscal pressure on their personnel expenses. So everything that they said it would impact, but I just wanted to make it clear there were actual savings offered.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor of the amendment before us to put back into the budget a gang unit of 6 FTEs, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. All right. Councilmember Katz, did you have another piece?
Yes, thank you. I think, based on this conversation we just had, which was more confusing than it needed to be, I think, but based on this, I believe we should do the same for the Montgomery Village positions as well. I move that.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Lukey, second. We have a motion, a second. Any other conversation on this? Council Vice President Juando. Then
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't press my button, but thank you. So this would again be, the lapse was already assumed as part of the larger lapse picture, but the positions would still exist if in the future you wanted to move people into them. You didn't speak to the operational impact of this at all. I just want to provide you the opportunity to speak to it.
Sure. So the Montgomery Village team does a lot of outreach in their area. They almost operate as a central business district team, working both with the businesses there and in the neighborhoods to maintain safety. Unfortunately, because of our staffing crisis and the decisions made by Chief Jones prior and that we've continued on with Chief Yamada, has been to not fill those positions, which were mandated in a previous budget. I'd have to look back at I believe, Councilmember Rice had put that forward, and they achieved some very, very good things. It's just the unfortunate reality of being 180 plus officers down that you have to cut them. We would like to, I'm sorry, not cut them, not fill those positions. Right. Because right now, so those units are uncontrolled and respond to community issues, do community engagement, are directed by requests from the community to address problems. What we need right now is we're down to the bare bones of people that are controlled and go out and answer 911 calls. So at some point when we return to staffing, and we've got and we've talked about it a little bit, we've got one more initiative that we really think is going to make a difference for hiring officers in the coming fiscal year. We will look at, in the order of priority, filling those positions again so they can go about the work that they were doing that was so successful.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so and happy to hear that we've gone from 20 to 25, hopefully maybe 30. I mean, at least we're trending in the right direction for the classes. Not as fast or as many as we want, but we want to go up as opposed to down. And good to hear about the ECC as well. And as the chief knows, I continue to try to work with you on other innovative ideas of getting more recruits in the door. So I'll continue to do that. So I'm fine with this as well, considering it's consistent with our previous decision. Thank you.
Councilmember Sales.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the 6 positions. Is there a way to tranche the positions to do 2 tranches of 3 each? Are you amenable to? So currently there's no coverage in Montgomery Village, no staff dedicated to the Montgomery Village area.
No, there's no staff dedicated to that uncontrolled team. As far as 911 services answering 279 non-emergency and emergency calls, we do have officers in Montgomery Village that are doing that basic work. It's the enhanced work of getting into neighborhoods and permanently solving public safety issues that units like these are so crucial to. That work's not going on right now.
It's very similar to what we see in the 3rd district and the success they had down there in the CBD.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, not seeing any other questions or comments. All those in favor of the amendment of putting back into the base budget the a recommendation to for the Montgomery Village team in the 6th District. Please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. All right, Ms. Farag, I think you have some other technical changes and things.
I do have one new technical adjustment for your consideration. This was transmitted on May 1st. The department has identified a crime analyst position in their general fund that should be moved to the grant fund. This had been in their central auto theft unit, which was abolished back in FY23, I believe, under the whole departmental reorganization. And at that time, they actually lost the grant funding for this. But since they've now since reestablished that unit, they are able to access the grant funding again. There is no net change in expenditures. This would just adjust who's paying for what.
Okay, that sounds good. With no objection, we'll take that technical change, and I don't think there's anything else outstanding in the police budget. Is that correct, Chair Katz?
Yes.
Ms. Farag?
I learned my lesson. Yeah, that's enough.
All right. Terrific. All right. So then we are done with the police budget. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for that conversation. Next, we have the FY26 County 9/11 fee increase. I'll turn it back to Chair Katz.
Are you sure you want me to do this? Yeah. The 911 fee. The county executive sent over on March the 14th a resolution authorizing the county 911 fee to be increased from 75 cents to $1.47 per telephone subscription, and that's for cell phones, etc. This fee has not been increased since July of 2003. It's expected to bring in an additional $12.5 million to the FY26 budget. Our Emergency Communications Center, also called the ECC, has gone through significant changes in the past 15 years due to advancement in technology, including use of wireless phones, an increase of call volume, texting, etc. 911 call centers have been transitioning to the next generation 911 technology, which is faster and more reliable and allows for texting, photos, and videos. Montgomery County moved to this technology in September of 2021. This improved technology requires increased training and personnel needs. The Public Safety Committee unanimously recommended to increase this fee and review on an annual basis so the fee is aligned with actual expenditures. I'd like to turn it over, with your indulgence, to Ms. Farag and Assistant Chief Augustine. I guess he's there. Yeah, there. No, he's not. Well, I'm to Lieutenant Fields for further explanation.
I just wanted to point out that the most common county fee in the state is about $1.50. 9 jurisdictions are currently charging that. The highest fee is $2.25 in Frederick County, and 8 jurisdictions continue to charge the lowest fee of 75 cents. Council Attorney has redrafted or amended a proposed resolution for your consideration on Circles 5 and 6. One of the things that had been discussed was whether or not this should come back before Council on an annual basis by resolution to improve the fee so that the Council is aware of actual expenditures and ensuring that the fee closely covers those costs and you're not overcharging or undercharging.
Thank you. Did the committee take a position on the
Yes,
annual?
3-0.
To review this annually?
Well, we said,
Sorry,
yeah, I think, yeah, it's part of the resolution.
I think you can tell my opinion about it.
Yeah, it was part of the resolution. Yes.
All right. So, thank you. So we have a committee, 3 committee recommendations, or I guess 4, to look at this annually. Any questions, comments? All right. All those in favor of the committee recommendation, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. All right. Thank you. Next, we are looking at the Police Accountability Board, NDA.
Thank you. As Forrest is coming forward here, the county executive recommended budget of of $891,877, which is an increase of 13% from FY25. This increase is mainly for compensation and some technological support. The Public Safety Committee recommended the following as reductions on the reconciliation list. Decrease the trial board's compensation by $37,500, as this was duplicative in the budget itself, and reduce the trial board members' training by $2,000, again due to a duplicative line item. Reduce the special counsel by $100,000 in two tranches of $50,000 each. Historical expenditures for special counsel has been significantly lower than budgeted amount. And with your indulgence, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Farag or Mr. Gilman-Riley for any additional information.
Sure. I just wanted to put the special counsel reduction in some context. There's $250,000 included in the overall budget for this. Both the Police Accountability Board and the Administrative Charging Committee each have a separate special counsel. We do have some expenditure experience to date as well as a year's worth, and that had totaled up to about $120,000, which was the reason for my recommendation of a $100,000 cut. The committee put that in two tranches of $50,000 for further consideration by the council. But Mr. Gilman-Riley may want to speak to this item. I believe that he might have some updated information on their actual expenditures for your consideration as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So in fiscal year 24, the program was allotted $50,000 for its special counsel budget. The special counsel began in August of 2023 and began at fiscal year 24. By the beginning of December, the program had overrun that portion of its budget by $11,586.75. By the end of fiscal year 24, that budget had been exceeded by $89,323.75. The council wisely created a buffer in the following budget, adding $200,000 to a budget of $250,000 for special counsel. In that first year, that overrun had to be made up from the County Executive's Office General Fund. So the payment and usage of special counsel is mandatory. There's no other place that these boards can receive legal services. They can't receive legal services from the Office of the County Attorney. And currently that is billed at a rate of $450 an hour, and that could increase. I did want to highlight some changes in workload, particularly for the Administrative Charging Committee, which is regularly rendering decisions on complaints of misconduct regarding police officers. In fiscal year 24, the Administrative Charging Committee rendered opinions in response to 30 complaints comprising 74 allegations. In fiscal year 25 so far, the committee has rendered opinions in response to 74 individual complaints for a total of 209 allegations. 42 of those were in the back half of 2024, July through December. 32 of those have been in the first 4 months of calendar year 25 alone. As of last month, the program had expended a total of $77,296.50. As of this month, on special counsel, it has expended a total of $88,209. Now, while the program doesn't endorse the costs generally, we can understand how the council would arrive there, and we would recommend keeping any cuts to a minimum. Granted, the program overall, since its inception, hasn't met that $250,000 even as a total expense. To date, it expended $227,532.75 on special counsel, with the majority of that being for the Police Accountability Board by approximately $6,000, and the balance being for the Administrative Charging Committee. Between fiscal year 24 and so far in fiscal year 25, expenses for the Charging Committee are fairly consistent, and that is despite the increase in workload. Some efficiencies have been introduced to the drafting process to reduce the number of hours that the special counsel currently has to spend on each decision, but we do expect to continue to receive increasing volumes of complaints for the committee to process. So in fiscal year 24, the committee expended a total of $59,188.25, and so far, up through April of this year, has expended $51,524.50. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else, Chair Katz? Nope. All right, Councilmember Sales.
Thank you. Just a quick question about the selection of the special counsel. What safeguards are in place to maintain its independence, given that it's supposed to advise the Police Accountability Board, the Administrative Charging Committee, but it's selected by the county attorney?
So the both special counsels are selected, of course, by the Office of the County Attorney. They are subject to approval by the County Council.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Council Vice President Joando.
Thank you. I appreciate the report. I'm fine with the reductions to the trial board member cost because the duplicative nature, but the one that concerns me based on the report that you just gave was the special counsel reduction, given that things have gone up. I mean, I was here when we put that in. There was a lot of discussion about it, and it seems like it's being utilized pretty heavily. And the numbers of complaints have gone up. So I'm not understanding. I know we're always looking for savings, but could you just say it again that you said when do we expect to expend the amount allocated? Because the 250 was what was in the budget already, in the county executive's budget already, correct?
That is correct.
And so how is it being spent down? What was the rate?
So the largest figure that I quoted there was the lifetime expenditures. Just to observe that we have not approached in any given year expending close to $250,000. In fiscal year 24, the program spent $139,323.75.
And that was the first year.
Okay. And so far this year has spent $88,209.
Okay, so it's actually went down a little bit, it sounds like, from last year. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, so 100. This would put it at 150. It's something we can monitor over time, and you're putting it on two tranches to say so we don't have to eliminate both. You could keep it, but I know the complaints have ramped up in what's being reviewed, which is good. It's something we should just monitor because we want to make sure there's resources to obviously investigate completely. And I'll just say I've watched this a lot, and hopefully we can move more towards this public dashboard idea where it's still kind of behind the curtain for a lot of people and they don't know what's going on. So I really hope that we can make progress this year on that. Thank you.
So I'm going to make a suggestion. We have the committee recommendation. A and B are both reductions because of being duplicative. So if the chair of the committee and the committee members are okay with this, if we split this out and take those two reductions and cuts now by a hand vote, and then place on the reconciliation list the reduction of $100,000, and we can get the numbers from Mr. Gilman Riley and consider that as we're considering reconciliation. Is that without objection? All right, so a hand vote on taking the reduction, taking the cut to the compensation and training since they're duplicative, that's unanimous. And then we'll add to the reconciliation list the two tranches. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your help. That will take us now to fire and rescue. Yeah, Councilmember Katz, go ahead.
In the county executive's recommended budget, which is $310.7 million for Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, which is a 6.2% increase from last year. It includes $1.2 million in program and staffing enhancements that are ESPP funded, and that's the emergency, whatever that stands for. The International Association of Firefighters president submitted a letter outlining the need for 2 additional EMS transport units and staffing for each. The committee placed these 2 units and staffing on the reconciliation list as $2,020,000 for each. Public Safety Committee supported a recommended reduction for Hyattstown Fire Station staffing to be added to the reconciliation list based on the station's low call volume and ability for nearby stations to provide necessary support and services to the area. And I know we're going to hear from the chief on that. This reduction redeploys 3 career firefighter positions on salary and a paramedic position staffed entirely on overtime on all other areas of need. The recommendation was made with the understanding that operational decisions are those of the fire chief and was based on the department's current plan of reallocation of staffing and equipment to meet identified need and provide efficient use of resources within the department. The committee put this reduction on the list with the understanding that we would receive an update today from Chief Smedley, and I'd like to, with your indulgence, turn over to Chief Smedley and to Ms. Farag.
Okay. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Susan, you want to go first?
I actually don't. If you wanted to provide an update on some of your planning, but I did just want to note there as a bookmark that I do have one new decision point for the council's consideration as part of the addendum.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay. So, first, let me say thank you for this opportunity. There's evidence that the county is growing with the population, but what I want to point out is even without the population growth, your department, your fire and rescue department, has seen a significant impact in service demand. So there's not a big correlation between population growth and service demand. So that's one of the things that I wanted to lay out and point out. I do support the county executive's proposed budget. We work very diligently to keep reductions out of this conversation because there are things that if we use a reduction will not allow the flexibility that's necessary to right size the amount of transport units we need, as well as be able to adjust the disparate way we're deploying right now based on what the needs are telling us. So as it relates to your specific question, we're still in that process, and that process simply means that we have not gotten together yet as a whole to talk through these things. So it would be premature to say that we are ready to go with any kind of plan with a redeployment. But if the council takes this reduction of those 3 personnel and the money that's being used to staff a firefighter paramedic 365 days a year, I can't use those resources to do other things if that is the direction that we determine makes most sense for the community.
Thank you.
Ms. Frog, did you want to speak now or wait till we
Sure.
have this conversation?
Yes, I just wanted to highlight that I made the recommendation for the reduction of Hyattstown staffing. It's not eliminating positions. It is taking one piece of apparatus out of service, and then that would allow the chief to redeploy those career staff where he feels the need is greatest. And it's my understanding that Chief Smedley's reorganization plan is very much safety-based. It's delivering services where they're needed. The department has taken equity into consideration, community vulnerability into consideration, as well as call volumes, types of calls, complexity. And I believe, it's my understanding, is that the Hyattstown 709 piece of apparatus is where his safety plan overlaps with my budget recommendation. I am trying to find savings. He's trying to maximize safety. I did want to point out that they have an ongoing structural overtime deficit that the Public Safety Committee and the Council deal with every single year, and there's a supplemental appropriation that will be introduced on Tuesday for $15 million. Part of my consideration of the budget, if Chief Smedley had not been looking at any type of reorganization, was to examine whether or not there were pieces of apparatus that should be taken out of service, given the fiscal constraints that the county has and this ongoing structural deficit that's unfunded. This overtime supplemental appropriation comes across the street every year, and it grows every year. They have about $20 million budgeted for this year, and they're expecting to reach, I believe it was closer to $32 million in overtime for FY25. That was the reason behind my recommendation. I did not want to interfere with the chief's operations planning. He is the subject matter expert to deliver safety. I was trying to identify a reduction for your consideration that would not cause operational pressures in that regard.
And can I clarify, because Susan is correct. So in that budget process expectations, we did have to find reductions for the 3.5% guidance, right? So one of the things that was submitted in that was what we're talking about now. And as I mentioned earlier, that was not put forth in the county executive's proposed budget. What I want to clarify is that when we got guidance to find $1 million, we got close to it with about $956,000. Those positions can't be used anywhere else because we're not getting rid of those positions. They're going to be used to cut overtime elsewhere. So I won't be able to use them to, where they're needed, to place additional transport units in service. So my recommendation would not be to take any of the reductions, obviously, because that prevents me from finding creative solutions in other places. Because based on this proposed budget, there's one transport unit. We already need 2 additional units, and we know that there are fiscal constraints, and therefore the flexibility that will be given without taking a reduction is looking at the current resources to better use them efficiently throughout the county. So I just wanted to bring that clarification to light.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Balcom.
Thank you. Thank you to Chief Smedley. I also want to thank Chief Gross from the Hyattstown Fire Station and the community for showing up. Thank you for your team and for everyone who is here now and was here but had to leave because of the length of the prior discussion. So I understand that operational decisions are 100% the prerogative of the chief and the county executive from an operational perspective. We are asked to weigh in on a budget decision. It's hard to look at the budget decision before us without looking at the implications of the operational implications of Hyattstown. So I just want to mention a few things. We have a unique system in Montgomery County with volunteer and career staff who work side by side, and it's a unique system, and it works well, and it benefits both our budget and our service, and it's important to know that redeploying the career service members of Hyattstown will greatly impact the service provided, without a doubt, and really jeopardizes the future of Hyattstown. And when we look at the Clarksburg station, which, by the way, I was just at the Clarksburg station last night for dinner, and there's an ongoing debate about who's the best chef in the department, and Shift B of Clarksburg is the best so far. I'm laying that out in case anybody wants to invite me. I got invitation from Upper Montgomery County through Link Hoeing. So, Heather, you're on the mark for that. When we looked at Clarksburg Station, one of the justifications for the Clarksburg Station was that Hyattstown couldn't service the Clarksburg area, if we go way back. But now Clarksburg Station is expected to service the Hyattstown area. And I think there's part of the discussion is how many calls go to the Frederick County. And we have to, I know there's mutual agreements between county lines, and I won't say closing Hyattstown because that's not the proposal that you're presenting. Taking career service from Hyattstown will have a great impact on the area. So I won't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Balcom. Not seeing any other questions or comments. The committee's recommendation is to take a reduction of $956,013 from the Hyattstown, and then to add to the reconciliation list 2 other items. Those two items will be added to the reconciliation list as our process has been. We will take a vote today on the reduction given the committee recommendation as we've had on other items. So all those in favor of the committee recommendation and taking this reduction, please raise your hand. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Thank you. I think that is it. Anything else?
Yes, I have one other.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes. We did receive the county executive's amendment on April 30th, revising the FY 25 through 30 CIP and FY 26 budget, which included adding language to the White Flint Fire Station project, facilitating purchase of land adjacent to the fire station for co-location of senior housing. There again, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Farag and Chief Smedley if they have any comments.
It's just my understanding that the county is ready to purchase this piece of property through the ALARF CIP process, and the ballpark price is about $1.6 million, give or take, depending on what closing costs are, and it is to co-locate senior affordable housing next to the fire station.
As we had conversations behind the scenes, we can predict based on the type of structure being erected and the population going into that structure, what that impact would be for us. So we are fine with that recommendation, just understanding that we're going to have to evaluate what that looks like and the resources that are needed to be able to manage those expectations.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm supportive of this, and I just wanted to speak on the last item real quickly. I really liked how Ms. Frog phrased it or set it up earlier in saying that she and the council are looking for savings, but you and the department are looking for safety. Very well said. And you've been on the job for almost a year now, so congratulations. And during that year, you have gone everywhere, evaluated everything, and this is your first budget for the department. And everything I continue to hear is that you are intently listening to every person at every level, at every firehouse. And so, thank you.
All right, I'm seeing no other questions or anything. Do you need us to take a straw vote on this, Ms. Frog, on the White Flint amendment?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Okay. All right. All those in favor of this amendment, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. I think we're done for fire. All right. I think we're done. Thank you for coming today. And next we have the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. right, I'll turn it back to Chair Katz again.
Thank you very much. The Public Safety Committee recommended approval of the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security budget of $5,722.07, I guess, a 20% increase from FY 25. This includes a shift in funding and 2.5 FTEs from the grant funding to the general fund to ensure the emergency planning training exercises and outreach continue at current levels as federal Homeland Security grant programs are being reduced and potentially eliminated. The committee also supported the executive's recommendation of additional funding in amount of $300,000 to the nonprofit security grant program. This amount will provide $1.2 million in total funding, the same amount available in FY25. With your indulgence, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Cummings and Director Hodgson for any additional information.
Sure. Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for having us today. Good to see everybody. I just wanted to start with...
Is it really, Luke? Is it really good to see you?
It is. We're all in this together, right?
Yeah, he said it with a straight face. I won't play poker with
As long as we don't get into lapses and those things. So, though traditionally these are termed enhancements, I just want to clarify, as I do each one of these years, that these are actually transferring previously grant-funded positions that do exist in our office over to the general fund. The intent was to ensure that we're able to maintain constant service to the community despite the reduction and or elimination of the federal grant stream that we have become very heavily dependent upon in emergency management and homeland security. In reality, even if this budget is passed as recommended by the committee, we'd actually still be short 2.5 positions should grants not come to fruition later this year, and that still remains very much up in the air, as I'm sure you all are tracking. So with so many other federal programs, the funding on which we so heavily rely on is in jeopardy, likely to be significantly reduced. It was reduced last year prior to the federal administration changing, so we absolutely expect that to change given the change in that administration. But it's very possible that some of the, or all of the grant streams that we've come to rely on will be eliminated entirely. So our concerns are the grants will simply not be available to states and locals. We, meaning the county, the state, the region, DC, all of our partners through which we do acquire these grant dollars will not be eligible for one reason or another, and we all know what some of those eligibility concerns are. Or those same entities that I just mentioned, or some combination there of those entities, may not be willing to accept the terms and conditions that are offered by the federal government as a reciprocation for receiving these grant dollars. We recognize that this is similar to so many of the agencies that you are hearing from during this budget process who rely so heavily on federal grants. I just want to point out that it's particularly impactful for emergency management, and that's for 2 reasons. One is the disproportionate amount that we rely on those grant funds. So nearly 50% of our personnel and programs rely on the federal grant stream. So losing this would obviously decimate what we're able to do for our partners throughout the government and, more importantly, the community as a whole. And then I think what's probably more important here is this is emblematic of an overall major paradigm shift in what we're seeing in homeland security and emergency management throughout the country. So since its inception, our discipline has relied on these tenets of federally funded, state managed, and locally executed. But the federal government has indicated that they are pushing more and more of these responsibilities and the burdens to state and locals, while conveniently leaving out that they are not going to provide any resources for us to do so. So at the same time, they're stripping us, and I say us meaning locals and states alike, of the resources that we need to even survive, let alone surge during times of emergency. So the worry is that the way that we're used to things progressing, whereas we start at the local level, we move up to the state when we need it, and then we move up to the federal government, those backstops will just no longer be there. Yep. And we're looking to at least maintain our current services that we're there to offer. I think that's compounded by the escalating nature of the demands that we're seeing in emergency management. So some of them are brought about by federal policy and some of the dissensions that you're seeing. The nonprofit security grant is a perfect illustration of some of the dissension we see building in the community and that hateful rhetoric that we're seeing build up and the implications that that has on homeland security. There's others unrelated topics, obviously. There are climate change, more frequent intense storms aren't necessarily tied to any particular federal administration, but nonetheless this administration has obviously taken a stance that is not as supportive for them. So I think the county's at risk of being underprepared if we don't take these steps, and that's at a particularly critical inflection point for our country and particularly our community. So I realize that the fiscal challenges and threats that we're all facing are here. They're very real. I absolutely respect them. I can tell you that we have done everything we can in our office to maximize our efficiency. We have laid those out. We've worked hand in hand with OMB, with our legislative analysts, with all of our partners to make ourselves as efficient as possible. And this is where we're at this point. So I thank you for those opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cummings, do you have anything to add on the packet?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Chair Cass, do you have anything else?
No, the only thing I guess I should very publicly say that yes, we do not have the same partnerships that we've had before, and that's truly unfortunate. But it is comforting to know that you and your department is there because people in Montgomery County can count on you. Thank you.
And thank you. And I'll just add, last year we did begin to see this and need to make the shift. When we're thinking about our first line of defense, the folks who are there for us, that's you all. And as you said, we're not able to rely on our federal government anymore. And we see day in and day out the work that your office does. And we need to be prepared and make sure we're there for our residents on what sometimes is the worst day of their lives. So I'm fully supportive of the budget on this. Not seeing any other hands, anything. All right, so this is the committee's recommendation is to take the county executive's recommendation on the budget for the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. All those in favor of that, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you kindly for the continued support.
Thank you. All right, next we have the Office of Animal Services, and we are still staying with Councilmember Katz.
Well, when your name is Katz, you have to be involved in animal services. I mean, the county executives. All right. County executives FY26 budget is $11,003,361, which is an increase of 4.8% from FY25. This budget reflects same staffing and service levels from last year. The Public Safety Committee recommended 3 items be put on the reconciliation list. All are included in the shelter's Maddie's Million Pet Challenge Consult recommendations based on national best practices. 2 tranches for 3 animal care attendant positions at $66,339 for each position. The shelter is underfilled by 9 positions to provide basic care and enrichment for the animals housed at the shelter, and to add $30,000 in funding for the pet food bank. Other residents, it's for to offer residents in need with essential food in order so they can continue to care for their pets at home. With your indulgence, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Anbinder or Director Harefield for any additional comments.
Oh, just press, yeah.
Just press the on button. That's yeah. All right. Council President, Council Vice President, my name is Caroline Harefield. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Animal Services. I just have a small opening statement. Office of Animal Services plays an essential role in fostering safe, healthy, and harmonious communities. Acknowledging the profound bond between humans and animals is critical as the relationship significantly influences the social framework of our society. OAS is committed to enhancing the welfare of both individuals and animals. The services offered at OAS create a supportive framework that promotes these vital relationships. Community-oriented initiatives provided by OAS extend beyond the mere animal care. They encompass and the cultivation of mutual bonds that contribute to the overall community well-being. Research demonstrates that the human-animal interaction yields substantial emotional and psychological advantages. Companion animals offer comfort and help alleviate feelings of loneliness, particularly during difficult times, which our community is getting ready to really face right now. The OAS Animal Safety Net Program has been established to sustain these bonds, assisting individuals and families in navigating challenges while retaining their pets. This includes our domestic violence sheltering program, our homelessness sheltering program, our emergency sheltering program, as well as our pet pantry, sterilization clinics, wellness clinics. There is a lot happening at OAS that helps our community and keeps families together. Furthermore, the Animal Safety Net Program extends its support to vulnerable populations, including, as I just said, those experiencing homelessness or economic hardships. Many individuals in these circumstances derive significant support from their pets, and the programs offer essential resources such as veterinarian care, food, and shelter, thereby enhancing our community's resiliency. In addition to the programming under the Animal Safety Net, fosters community engagement and education through workshops, outreach programs, and volunteer opportunities. In fact, OAS has almost 600 volunteers. Residents can collaborate to promote understanding and care for both animals and community members. Addressing animal welfare encompasses broader public health and safety concerns as well. Effective support services can aid in diminishing stray populations, mitigating instances of neglect, and contributing to healthier environments for all residents. This approach ultimately fosters the development of safer communities where both humans and animals coexist harmoniously. A modest investment in funding at this stage can yield substantial financial savings in the future. It's imperative to underscore the significance of the OAS within the community. Support, funding, and resources allocated to these initiatives are critical for their sustainability and success. In conclusion, endorsing animal welfare contributions to community resilience, a community that advocates for its vulnerable members, irrespective of species, exemplifies a commitment to the collective well-being. Engaging in efforts to ensure the availability of resources for the OAS animal support services will lead to positive outcomes for both individuals and animals. We urge you to recognize the pivotal role that OAS plays in maintaining family bonds and to approve our budget with the addition of 3 ACAs and positions in the $30,000 to support our pet food pantries. We know that right now families are really facing some substantial losses and hardships. Let's not make it about their pets too. Let's keep our families together and help support them through this very trying time that we're all getting ready to face. Let us help them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any questions or comments. For this budget, we will add the 3 items to the reconciliation list and consider them as we do with the others. Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on now to Arts and Humanities Council, NDA, and I'll turn it over to the chair of the E&C Committee, Council Vice President Giwando.
Thank you. I see we have our great team from REC and from the Arts and Humanities Council. So the committee took up the county executive's budget for the Arts and Humanities Council. It was recommended at $7,053,953. That was the 3% that is being considered as part of all of inflationary increases. And the committee was supportive of that. The committee also recommended adding 2 tranches of one-time grant funding in the amount of $100,000 each. This is new to the NDA to provide additional funds for the Arts and Humanities Council's grants to artists and to organizations, arts and humanities organizations. The request was for $500,000. We reduced that and split it into 2. I'll turn to Ms. Jenkins in a moment just to give context and if colleagues have questions, but it was a very compelling case in the committee's view made around we did a similar program. These programs are overutilized, and they've expanded who's been getting the grants. And during COVID, we very similar moment, we doubled down and made sure that folks, artists, and organizations weren't lost, and how important that was to the health, and not only health, economic health, but well-being and mental health and others, to have those organizations and individuals in our community. So that's why we thought it was warranted to add those as 2 tranches, but realizing as we have other big budget decisions to make. So that was the recommendation from the committee.
Ms. Jenkins, you want to?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm Susan Jenkins, CEO of the Arts and Humanities Council, and it's great to see you all today during this work session. I am deeply grateful for the consistent and stalwart support that Montgomery County lends to the arts and humanities sector, the cultural sector here in Montgomery County. With more languages being spoken at Montgomery College than at the UN, I think we all understand the incredible multi-generational, multicultural community that is Montgomery County. And the comment that was made earlier during the work session with police and fire, that people constantly report that quality of life factors are very important to them for why they move to Montgomery County and why they stay here. It is why my family has stayed here for over 30 years, is deeply incredible. I think I cannot overstate what's happening at the federal level as far as the sector is concerned. Just 2 days ago, we were informed about what it appears is going to be the decimation of the National Endowment for the Arts, the IMLS for library services, and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Understanding that we have such a huge federal workforce in Montgomery County, my colleagues are being deeply, deeply affected by that, and I know that they will turn to us for support. So the committee's recommendation and your support couldn't come at a more prescient and important time, and I am deeply grateful that we continue to have this vision for arts, humanities, culture, and the way that we were protecting each other, both mind, body, and spirit. We attached some additional responses that the committee had asked for, and I want to apologize because there was a typographical error in the documentation that we sent out, the addendum, and so we'll send that in so that you can see that. But bottom line is that the need is there, and I am deeply appreciative that the committee would recommend additional funding in 2 tranches for the Arts and Humanities Council. I try to state demand quite clearly, and that seems to be seen. And so there's nothing else that I can say except that the demand is there. The urgency for our sector is here, and anything that the council can do, continue to do to support our sector would be deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mink.
Just wanted to lift up one point that I thought was really compelling during committee, which is that a lot of these grants, it's not like they're coming back year after year to make this grant part of their operating budget. These are by and large being used as, to tide them over through a rough patch, and sometimes to level up so that they're able to be more productive than on their own from there. So they are an important economic development tool within this space, and we want to make sure that folks who are able to make an income and able to generate income, sometimes able to provide jobs, et cetera, if they need a little bit of help to be able to continue to do that, or a little bit of help to get to the next level to be able to do more, that's a really tremendous return on investment. If there's anything that you want to add to that, I just wanted to make sure we lifted that point up.
Well, with the county, thank you very much, Councilmember Mink. With the county's investment, we know through hard numbers, not conjecture, that we're generating about $188 million in revenue. That's right here in Montgomery County. And so being able to support these organizations and understand that we are an economic multiplier rather than someone is just taking from the government, I think is an important part. And also that, yes, we are helping organizations maintain themselves. Having been here both through the economic downturn of 2008 and then the pandemic, we understand that when our residents turn to us, this is helping them just maintain their presence in the county and encouraging them to stay. During both of those instances, the Arts and Humanities Council did not lose any organizations based on the council's support of our requests. We do know our sector, we do know what the needs are, and we're asking you to continue that support so that we won't lose anyone, we maintain that, and that we continue to serve as an economic driver. Thanks, Councilmember Mink.
Thank you. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you very much. Really appreciated the conversation. I appreciate your comments now, Ms. Jenkins. And the timing obviously is critically important. I didn't support this specific line item, not because I didn't think it was important, not because I don't support the arts, but in light of the conversations we had last week and which have been sort of underscored this week with the financial outlook and the challenges, that was why I didn't support this. But I did want to give you the opportunity. We did discuss the possibility of breaking down geographically how the grants have been distributed. This council, under the great leadership, especially of Councilmember Balcom, has really emphasized, and many over many years, has really emphasized the geographic the fair and equitable geographic distribution of these particular grants. Just want to give you an opportunity to underscore that. I know you're trying to invest across the entire county and all types of emerging and incredibly important organizations, but if you could talk about the geography.
Absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity, Councilmember Alvarez. So I can tell you this, in District 1, we are supporting, our grants are about 32% of our residents come from District 1. District 2, 8% of grants are made to organizations in District 2. District 3, 17% of grants are made in District 3. These are for organizations. We're not talking about individuals here. District 4, 20% of grants are made in District 4. District 5, 11% of the grants go to organizations in District 5. District 6, 9% of grants go to organizations in District 6, and 3% of grants go to organizations in District 7. So our work is all centered in equity, and we have, for the last several years, worked very, very, very hard to distribute funding in a way that both maintains the pillars of our community as far as the largest of the large organizations, while making and increasing their grant awards, keeping them in a formulaic grant opportunity, and also allowing them to get advancement grants for things outside of general operating support, while also increasing the roles so that we have an opportunity to more equitably give to the other districts. And so we have worked really, really hard at this. And this looks very different than it did, say, 5 years ago. But because of your support, we've been able to be a lot more equitable, and we continue to strive to do that.
Yeah, I think the point that you made in our discussion in committee was, with additional support, there could be even more emphasis in those districts that don't have as many. So I'm just trying to make the case for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, your funding of the Arts and Humanities Council and the ability for us to give Wheaton grants, that has been incredibly important because, say, 6 years ago, there were no grants in Wheaton. And so we're seeing that it takes time because we have no venues in Wheaton. We're addressing that now, thankfully. But some of the issue has been that even when we grant to organizations in those areas, if there's nowhere for them to perform or to rehearse or to collaborate, it's very difficult. So some of our work has been in finding this out, and I think the cultural plan will help us learn a lot more things about what we need to do, and we're really excited about the OLO report that's being done now on facilities in Montgomery County so that we can understand how better to balance the funding that we have so that there is a more equitable distribution throughout the county. That's of grave concern to us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So thank you.
Councilmember Last.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Jenkins, thank you for your work. And I know that the national climate's already affecting a number of our arts organizations here.
Yes.
And understand the the request that was made for $500,000
Yes.
above, anticipating that need. There's been a lot of anticipation or talk of anticipation throughout this budget process, and we have not necessarily funded organizations in anticipation of what might come. So that's the
Understand.
through line, right?
Understand.
So I appreciate what the committee did, and I know you know this, but I think it needs to be said that while we watch what happens across the federal government, across every funding agency and department and organization, it's going to be extremely hard to match dollar for dollar the depletion at the federal level.
Absolutely,
And
we
so
understand
this
that.
will be an ongoing conversation, just as it was during the pandemic,
Yes.
when doors, lights, and curtains were shuttered.
Yes.
And so I'm glad you're at the helm. We'll continue this conversation, and we'll see what we can do with this budget.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. Ms. Cummings, did we capture everything in the? All right. Director Riley, anything to add? Oh, man, you're getting the close.
I'm not going to stand in the way of dinner for you.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you all. We will return to this on the reconciliation list with the additional tranches that were put on. Thank you to everyone for that. Our last item is the
Thank you
ethics
much.
commissions. Thank you. This evening, and the Government Operations Fiscal Policy Committee reviewed this budget and recommended approval of the budget as recommended by the executive. This is coming to us this afternoon because Ms. O'Connor did raise a question regarding an additional $360,000 request to upgrade the 3 electronic systems. The committee recommendation at the time was to say, like we have been saying, that there are a number of needs. We will understand the fiscal outcomes a bit more in the next couple of months. And at this time, the committee did not recommend putting this on the reconciliation list, but we wanted to give Ms. O'Connor the time to address the full council. So, Ms. O'Connor.
Thank you, everyone, for seeing me today and hearing me out. And thank you for your continued leadership in the ethics realm, especially in this climate. Sometimes being ethical is an act of defiance and an act of rebellion, perhaps even an act of resistance. And in that vein, I am asking you to shake the couch cushions. $360,000 to update the financial disclosure system, the outside employment system, and the lobbying system. You all are users of the financial disclosure system. I'm not sure if you're aware that the last time we overhauled the system was in 2015, and it is our newest system. All of the platforms that my systems operate on are either becoming outdated or are no longer supported. And while TEBS does say that this will not cause a catastrophic failure, it does cause failures, and they generally happen to our board, committee, and commission members who are not county employees and who are activating the systems in the evenings. I work 40 hours a week. My one staffer works 40 hours a week. So these occurrences require manpower during off hours, and we just roll up our sleeves and we do it. It's not easy, but we do it because if we don't do it, then our rate of compliance with the ethics law fails. And right now, our county is not just a leader in the area, it's a leader in the state, it's a leader in the region, and dare I say, a leader in the country. And again, in this current climate, that doesn't mean nothing. Right now, we need to stand up and say, no, we're going to keep being ethical. We're going to keep pushing good governance while those around us, very close to us to the south, are saying the exact opposite with their actions and their words. So again, thank you for seeing me and hearing me out. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in this matter. And $360,000 down from the original $560,000, I might add. After speaking to TEBS, I was able to get them to back away slowly from an additional $50,000 every year for maintenance fees. again, I do understand that it is a miserable climate, but I got to ask. So thank you.
Sorry, appreciate it. I have Councilmember Sales.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Given the tough budget season, as you've heard, if you had to pick one of the three systems, which one is the most in need of an upgrade, and what would it cost?
That's extremely difficult to answer, and I'll tell you why. So the oldest system that we have is the lobbying registration and reporting system. It came online in 2012, 2013.
Okay.
It's our only money maker. It doesn't bring in a whole lot of money, but it does pay for the maintenance of all three systems. So we bring in roughly $20,000 a year, and that covers our maintenance fees, generally speaking.
Okay.
The second oldest system is the outside employment system, which impacts 10,000 employees for Montgomery County because everyone is able to and can use this system. Last but not least, everyone's in the room's favorite, the financial disclosure system is the behemoth, and it does account for 2/3 of the ask. Again, it's 10 years old, and for the last 10 years, I've managed the systems for 12 years. I've only become chief counsel in the last year. I know these systems backwards and forwards. That system is so incredibly complex that TEBS did say it makes the most sense to hire a contractor, a senior level contractor, to manage the overhaul of all three systems at once as a cost saving measure. The financial disclosure system, I've been keeping a long checklist of all of the updates that that system needs. And sometimes from information I've gleaned from users such as council members, things that the system can't do that, gosh, it would be really easy. It would be great if it could. And everyone in this room knows that filing your financial disclosure can be a miserable experience.
That's because we don't do it. Our treasurers do
I do my best to take the fear factor out, and I think that I've helped almost everyone on the days with this process. And my goal is to make it even easier with the upgrade. But if I have to pick, it's going to be that system 100% of the time.
All right. Thank you for that.
Great. So I think it was Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez who said earlier today that there are some things that come to us as we're doing the budget, and since this wasn't, as the committee recommended, since this wasn't in the county executive's ask, we wanted to have you come back again to the GO committee after we do budget to talk a little bit about this. We have found, particularly on the GO committee, that a lot of different departments use TEBS, and as we've been able to go back and forth sometimes with TEBS and figure out, what is really needed and dig into that, it has been a good process. So since we are unable to do that within the budget process now, it is not the committee's recommendation to move forward with this, but want to continue the conversation as soon as we're done with budget on that. So before us, we have a recommendation from the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee on the Ethics Committee's budget, which is to affirm the county executive's proposal for the Ethics Committee. All those in favor of that, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. All right. Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Thank you, everyone. That was our last item this afternoon. We are adjourned and back again tomorrow. So see you tomorrow morning.